Welcome to God Seeker. This is Elizabeth Fulgaro. The current message: faith. Faith is the foundation of relationship with God. He is invisible, and though omnipresent, which means He is present and with you at all times, it is not in a way to which you are accustomed. He is a spiritual presence, sensed and experienced spiritually. Most of us are used to physical things, which we can experience physically. Though God often works through people, His essence still works through them spiritually, which is invisibly. Thus, to begin to develop relationship with God, first you must choose to believe He is there, and then have faith that He is as He says, which presupposes you are seeking to learn what He says about Himself and not just make up your own good-seeming ideas. During the earliest years of my own rekindled faith, I got caught up in a manner of believing which I no longer believe is correct, and this stymied or limited the relationship God wanted to have with me. It also led to confusion, disappointment, and all too probably affected others around me in a way that sent them inadvertently further away from God instead of allowing Him to work through me with His freeing truth to draw them closer. My earliest understanding about faith was that it seemed to mean to choose to believe and not doubt, and that God would answer prayers my way. I was not thinking of it at the time as my way. It was simply that it was as if I could see what was needed, so if I prayed, certainly that would be what God wanted too. Thus, He would answer my prayers the way I asked because He did promise to answer prayer. At least that's what I initially thought. There were scriptures upon which I based my fervency, such as where St. Matthew writes what Jesus said in his Gospel. So, the book of Matthew, chapter 21, verses 20 through 22. And Jesus answered them, "Truly I say to you, if you have faith, a firm relying trust, and do not doubt, you will not only do what has been done to the fig tree, but even if you say to this mountain, 'Be taken up and cast into the sea,' it will be done. And whatever you ask for in prayer, having faith and really believing, you will receive." Or what Matthew wrote in chapter 17, verse 20. Jesus said to them, "For truly I say to you, if you have faith that is living like a grain of mustard seed, you can say to this mountain, 'Move from here to yonder place,' and it will move, and nothing will be impossible to you." These are just a few of God's biblical assurances that He answers prayer. There are many more. Yet in my desire for what I knew I wanted, and was certain He must want too, because it would be good, right? I was not leaving room in my prayers for God to be God, which means His ways are not my ways. His thoughts are not my thoughts. His are higher and better and different. This is what the Old Testament pre-Jesus Jewish prophet Isaiah tells us in Isaiah chapter 55, verses 8 through 9. It's like comparing a parent's grasp of a situation to that of a child. And when I pray, I have to acknowledge that certainly I am doing so from a childlike viewpoint. My comprehension is like that of a very small child, and not of an all-knowing adult. So initially I had become one of those who looked to have faith and not doubt, and I thought this was what God wanted. I believed that if I did this, that what I prayed for, it would come to pass. They were good requests according to my definition of good. And He is a good God who longs to give good gifts to His children. Matthew 7:11 quotes Jesus as saying, "If you then, evil as you are, know how to give good and advantageous gifts to your children, how much more will your Father who is in heaven, perfect as He is, give good and advantageous things to those who keep on asking Him?" Certainly that included me. I would dedicate myself to praying my request to Him without doubting. I would dedicate myself to persevering in prayer as He requested and with eyes squeezed shut and fists clenched, tightly hold on to the idea that if I were faithful in prayer like this, if I put forth this much effort, it would be almost as if I could partner with God to will this desired answer into being. God would bring it by the power of his response to the fervency of my prayers. Oh, this was so well intended. But time and experience have shifted my view in slight but significant ways. With good intentions, it had almost been as if I were trying to conjure God to do my bidding instead of being surrendered to his will. Unintentionally, but hoping this with all my heart. Yet as God began to give me broader understanding of the dynamics under which we live in this imperfect realm, along with his character and plans and how he works, my view of the role of prayer and partnership with God changed. My God is still the God of miracles. He definitely asks me to pray and asks me to bring my request. He still asks me to ask for the impossible according to the way he gives me to see it and in the way he leads. He looks for me to partner with him. But the answers are to be expected to not always be what I expect. Sometimes he will answer in a way beyond what I ever would have asked for. Other times, the answer he brings will seem incomprehensible because it does not seem like a kind or caring answer at all. Evil will seem to win, and one more time, my heart will break. I have learned this does not make him any less God or any less loving. I can still rest assured he did hear and is not surprised at what has come. Neither is he cruel. It does not mean I failed in my faithfulness to reach him. It does not mean that I did not pray enough. It does not mean I prayed somehow in the wrong way. When this is the answer others have for what is going on for you, these suggestions are horrible and flippant. All too easy explanations that some will throw at you because it's easier than grappling with that which cannot be fully understood yet, but has come to be, even though you prayed, seemingly in spite of your prayers. It means I am a child of God, and he alone is God. It reminds that here in this temporal existence, there are greater, longer-lasting agendas afoot than getting the job I thought I wanted, or the place to live for which I longed, or even more than having someone I cherish live longer. God answers prayers. You partner with him with your prayers to birth that into this realm which he has purposed from his throne in heaven. His answer won't always look like what you think ought to be. And sometimes his seeming lack of answer will cause you to weep. And even there, he is still with you because the hurt and pain and hardship of this place, which is not heaven, was never his perfect will. And when that day comes, that he finally calls you home to himself, you can ask all your questions, and he will lift you up as his beloved child onto his blessed lap and give you the understanding which you have been seeking, even as he wipes away every tear. Let's finish with a few more verses from God's Word, the Bible. This time from St. Paul's first letter to the Corinthians, a community of first-century Jesus followers in Corinth, which was a city-state on the Isthmus of Corinth, a narrow stretch of land that joins the Peloponnese to the mainland of Greece, roughly halfway between Athens and Sparta. In chapter 3, verses 18 through 20, St. Paul writes, "Let no person deceive himself. If anyone among you supposes that he is wise in this age, let him become a fool. Let him discard his worldly discernment and recognize himself as dull, stupid, and foolish, without true learning and scholarship, that he may become really wise. For this world's wisdom is foolishness, absurdity, and stupidity with God. For it is written, He lays hold of the wise in their own craftiness. And again, the Lord knows the thoughts and reasonings of the humanly wise and recognizes how futile they are. Listen to the song, "The Answer Was No," from the Walk on Water album. You can find the song, "The Answer Was No," on my YouTube channel, various streaming services, and always on CD. Thank you for joining in. God Seeker messages are brought to you by Eagle's Nest Foundation. Until next time, this is Elizabeth Fulgaro. I am praying for you. Listen to the song, "The Answer Was No," and keep seeking God.